Hello to all those to whom it could concern. I would like to continue where I left off on my last video blog. The reason why I was using equal rights issue pertaining to self-defense in order to affirm a concept of sovereignty, which makes up the sum total of our human rights, is because I can see by the societal circumstances that exist today that our rights as our rights as human individuals are constantly under overt as well as covert assault. There is a societal implementation that is being utilized to chip away the context that define our personal freedoms, our rights that we hardly ever utilize in a self-vigilant manner. There are situations and circumstances that allow us to use a degree of sovereignty, but only in the context of self-defense. That is an instinctual response when you are placed in a set of circumstances that threaten, your right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Some people are able to respond quickly on the instinctual self-preservative mode that really goes far to define that person. It defines the essence of who that person is, as well as change their aspects of thinking, and it solidifies within them entirely new, if not, what it really does is reaffirm their concept of reality and the fact that life can be so easily violently taken, without even any foreknowledge or any preventive steps that you can utilize to prevent that from occurring. Now, the reason why I put that in the context of sovereignty is because I have been paying close attention to the conflict over in Libya, which has created circumstances that compel Louis Farrakhan to arise and take a confrontational, controversial stance in defense of his friend. Now, from based upon what I have heard, as well as based upon what I have read, it is evident that he is closely associated with Muammar Gaddafi, and he felt compelled to speak in behalf of his friend because he believed his friend was being unjustly targeted for assassination. Now, there are sovereignty, international rights to protect the sovereignty of nations, and based upon what I have read regarding international law, and based upon what I have heard through blogs and news conferences that Louis Farrakhan had, it is evident that he is in a self-defensive mode himself, as well as establishing the right to defend and speak in behalf of his friend. Now, we so often feel that international conflicts does not in any wise affect us, but it does in ways that we not very often see firsthand. You know, one of the reasons why, because we are preoccupied with the daily grind of trying to make a living and at the same time stave off the potential of being placed in a situation that is not favorable to us, or the ones that are relying on us to provide, defend, and protect them. So it's perfectly understandable that we do not see how international conflict, how the foreign policy of this nation affects us. And it does in ways that we couldn't even begin to imagine. One of the reasons why, because when you look at the recession and the economic difficulties that it is imposing on each and every individual, the rise in gas prices, the cost of living that is escalating as a result of the recession and the conflict over in Libya, it affects us. You know, everything that happened over in the Middle East affect us in ways that are not directly noticeable to us because we are preoccupied with dealing with the circumstances and the situations that we are far too often confronted with. But he felt that it was vital to his friendship with Omar Gaddafi, and he felt like it was in his best interest to state why he felt compelled to come to the defense of his friend. He went as far in the press conference, he went as far as describing how the Nation of Islam had financial difficulties in the early 70s, late 60s, and how the residential home of Elijah Muhammad was facing financial difficulties, tax related financial difficulties, and how the Nation of Islam was given a loan by Omar Gaddafi, a loan that they required, or a loan that they was going to utilize to stave off the Internal Revenue intent to take possession of Elijah Muhammad's place of residence. So based upon what Louis Farrakhan said, he felt that it was needed to use that financial loan as a means of not only dealing with tax violations that could result in them losing the home, but he stated that he utilized that loan to refurbish, refortify, and basically remodel and utilize the complete reno the complete restoration of that place of residence. Now he talked in great detail about the situation and circumstances that occurred due to the government utilizing institutional means unjustly to take possession of the house nevertheless. So the financial steps that he and the Nation of Islam took, resulted in them staving off and paying off whatever discrepancies put the house at risk of being repossessed. Now, based upon what Farrakhan was saying, he was saying that they had to take the measures and utilize that money for a purpose other than what he originally acquired that loan for. But basically, he said that he had called Omar Gaddafi and explained to him that there was insinuating circumstances that occurred that put him at risk because the United States did not approve of him utilizing international means to contact and establish a relationship, a friendship with someone that was perceived as an international enemy of the United States. So therefore, they was taking preemptive international and institutional steps to nullify Farrakhan's ability to retain that loan. Farrakhan also explained that the Jewish institutional apparatus that is labeled as the Anti-Definition League took steps to ostracize any black bank from acquiring the utilization of their banks to hold and utilize the banking industry, the black banking industry, to hold on to the loan that Farrakhan had acquired from Muammar Gaddafi. So therefore, the president of black financially lucrative banking industry that was strictly black owned told Farrakhan that they was receiving pressure from the Jewish community to renege on their obligation to hold and invest the resources of their bank for his use of holding and utilizing the loan that Muammar Gaddafi offered him. So therefore, they stressed to him that they had no choice but to tell him that he could not hold or utilize their banking facilities to maintain the savings account and the checking account that their banks provided. So basically, they was utilizing their concept of sovereignty to nullify his concept of sovereignty because of his position that enabled him to literally be viewed by the international community as a head of state. You know, Farrakhan had acquired international position that is considered as a threat to this nation. He have acquired international contacts with various leaders of the African uh, heads of state. You know, so basically he has a sovereign position, a position that offers him a degree of sovereignty that the U.S. as well as the Jewish community view as evident and potentially inflammatory threat to their concept of sovereignty. The reason why I'm going in this direction is to convey over to the people that we all have a degree of sovereignty, a higher degree of sovereignty than we realize. And the sovereignty is the sum total of our human rights that are being threatened even as I speak, being threatened on a scale that is inconceivably